In this tutorial, we learn a nice little trick for calculating square roots by hand. Now, let's say we had to calculate the square root of 40. The first thing we have to do is find the square number which is closest to 40 and calculate its square root. Now, if you're unsure of what I mean when I say square number, let me start by writing all the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And directly below each of these numbers, I'm going to write its corresponding square number. To calculate that, all I have to do is multiply each of these numbers by itself. Here's what I mean. To calculate 1 squared, I calculate 1 times 1, which equals to 1. To calculate 2 squared, I calculate 2 times 2, which equals to 4. To calculate 3 squared, that would be 3 times 3, which equals to 9. For 4 squared, that would be 4 times 4, which equals to 16. And carrying on that way, we quickly complete this second row of numbers. We now have the first 10 square numbers written here in green. And so going back to calculating the square root of 40, remember I said that for the first step we need to find the square number which is closest to 40. Looking at this list of numbers in green, it doesn't take us too long to see that the number that is closest is 36. So in this first step, I go ahead and calculate the square root of 36. To find the square root of 36, all we have to do is read the number directly above it. So that's 6. So the square root of 36 equals to 6. And now the second thing we do is approximate the square root of 40. And here's how. I can state that the square root of 40 is equal to 6. That's the number we just found in step 1. And to that, I need to add the difference between 40 and 36. Well, let's see, 40 is 4 units bigger than 36. So I write plus 4 over 2 times 6, which is the number we found in step 1. So I write the 6 here. And so this equals to 6 plus 4 over 12, which equals to 6 plus 1/3. And since 1/3 is approximately equal to 0.3, we can go ahead and say that the square root of 40 is approximately equal to 6.3. And by all means check, but if you calculate the square root of 40 with a calculator, you'll find that rounding to 1 decimal place will give you 6.3. Looking back, notice that I wrote an equal sign here. I should of course change that to an approximately equal to sign, like so. Okay, let's look at a second example. Say we have to calculate the square root of 13, again without a calculator. Well, the method is still the same. The first thing I do is look for the square number which is closest to 13 in this list. Looking at this, we can see that the one that's closest is 16. So I go ahead and calculate the square root of 16. And if you're in any way unsure of how to do that, just look back at this row here. The square root of 16 is the number directly above it. So that's 4. So I write square root of 16 equals to 4. Now, the second thing I do is state that the square root of 13 is approximately equal to the number we just found in step 1, so that's 4. So I write 4 here, plus the difference between 13 and 16. Well, in this case, 13 is 3 units less than 16. So I have to subtract 3, and that's written over 2 times 4. Again, that's the same 4 as the one we found in step 1. So that's equal to 4 minus 3 over 2 times 4, which is 8. And so that's equal to 4 minus 3 over 8, which, if you're comfortable converting fractions to decimals, is 0.375. This is therefore equal to 3.625. And rounding to 1 decimal place, we can state that the square root of 13 is approximately equal to 3.6. And again, go ahead and check with your calculators, but the square root of 13 is indeed equal to 3.6 when rounded to 1 decimal place. Let's look at one last example. Say we have to calculate the square root of 54. Again, the first thing we need to do is find the square number which is closest to 54. Looking at our list here, we can see that the one that's closest is 49. So I go ahead and calculate the square root of 49. And looking at our list here, we can quickly see that that's 7. So the square root of 49 equals to 7. The second thing we do is approximate the square root of 54 by saying that it's approximately equal to 7. Remember, that's the number we found in step 1. plus the difference between 54 and 49. Well, 54 is 5 units bigger than 49, so I add 5 over 2 times the number we found in step 1. So that's 2 times 7. That's equal to 7 plus 5 over 14. And 5 over 14, well, that's not easy to calculate. But remember, we're approximating here, so let's make our lives easier. 5 over 14 should be pretty close to 5 over 15. And 5 over 15 equals to 1 over 3, which is approximately equal to 0.3. So I can go ahead and write that the square root of 54 is approximately equal to 7.3. And once more, you can go ahead and check with your calculators, but if you round the square root of 54 to one decimal place, you'll find that it's equal to 7.3. And there we go. We now know a cool little trick for calculating the square root of a number. And that's it for this tutorial.